Forward by John C. Maxwell. All right, and in today's review, we're going to be looking at chapter 11, which is titled Take a Risk. There is no other way to fail forward. And there is a quote here by Henry C. Link, who said, "While one person hesitates because he feels inferior, the other is busy making mistakes and becoming superior." All right, so in today's review, we're going to be looking at taking risks, why it is important to take risks, and what you tend to lose if you do not take risks. Okay, every era has its great explorers, people willing to face danger, to break new ground and discover new worlds. And America loves these kinds of people. There are some examples of those people here. People who dared so many great things, who dared adventures throughout history. For example, Columbus, Crockett, Lewis and Clark, Lindbergh, Armstrong, and so on, right? As in, they made some things that looked impossible to be impossible. What kind of man would live where there is no daring? What kind of man would live without taking any risk? If you are living and you are not taking any risk, to me, it means that you're not living at all. And this is also the position of the author of this book, John Maxwell. You cannot say that you're truly living when you're not taking any risk. You're just playing it too safe in life. Right? Even though he says, I don't believe in taking foolish chances, but nothing can be accomplished if we don't take any chances at all. And this is the truth. Risk is a funny thing, and risk is very subjective. That means what is a risk to me may not be a risk to you. I may find it risky climbing trees, but then I may find it very comfortable and easy, investing my money in any venture that I think is good. But you may think that it is too risky investing your money in any investment venture at all. But then you may find it very easy taking risks. So risk is subjective. It depends on an individual. What is risky to you may not be risky to me. But how do you judge whether some activities are worth the risk or not? Is it based on your fear? Is it that when you are so afraid of that thing, you feel that, oh, this risk is too much, this is not something that I want to take? Or is it based on the outcome, the success that is going to come out of it, to say, okay, this thing has a very, very high chance of success, let me go for it? So how do you evaluate risk? All right, we're going to look at the story of somebody who is a pioneer in taking risks, and her name is, and let me say her real name. Her name is Amelia Earhart, but she was popularly called Millie by her family members. She was a perfect example of somebody who pushed the envelope of risk in order to achieve goals that were valuable to her. As she grew up, there was no significant indication that Millie would someday be one of the great adventurers of the 20th century. She was an inquisitive child. She was born in Kansas in 1897. She was a very bright student who excelled academically. She liked reading books and reciting poems, and she also enjoyed sports, particularly basketball and tennis. But then, during World War I, she really wanted to make an impact by helping soldiers who were wounded during the war. So she went in to learn about nursing so that she would take care of them, and she indeed learned it. She took care of them, and this took her to Canada. And after the war was over, she enrolled as a pre-med student at Columbia University in New York. But then in 1920, when she finished her first year at the university, she decided to visit her family in Los Angeles, and this was the first time that she would take a plane. She would take a plane, and as soon as the plane took off from the ground, she said to herself that she knew that she herself wanted to fly, and that was the end of her medical career. and the beginning of her career as a pilot. The moment the plane took off, she said, oh, I am going to fly. So she didn't return to medical school. Rather, she went on to learn how to become a pilot. In fact, before she could become a pilot, she had to do so many odd jobs in order for her to raise $1,000 to take her flying lessons. And she did. That is the power of determination. The moment you recognize that this is what I want to do, nothing can stop you. Nobody can stop you. If you are still dragging your feet, it means that you are not sure whether you should do that thing or not. The moment you are sure that this is what you should be doing, nothing can stop you. You're going to push through the ceiling, and that is the truth. So she actually took flying lessons in order for her to learn how to fly, and that was how she became a pilot. She said and admitted that learning to fly was not easy. It wasn't easy for her, but she had more than her share. Because she had more than her own share of crashes, she crashed so many times, but she persevered. She did not give up. So many years later, she even told her husband her perspective on flying. She said to her husband, please know that I am quite aware of the hazards. I want to do it because I want to do it. So she wasn't crashing or didn't get into flying because she wasn't aware of the danger involved. She knew quite all right, but it was something that she was determined to do. And she really wanted to help women. She wanted to be a pioneer in encouraging women to be able to do what men could do, or even to do better. And that was why she kept on pushing. She wanted to leave a legacy. She wanted to open the way for women to be encouraged, to be motivated, to take on some of these challenges that they believe that are only meant for men, right? And that was exactly what she did. And in 1921, she took her first solo flight. By the next year, she set the first of her many aviation records for flying the highest altitude. She piloted planes because she loved to fly, but she also had an agenda. She was trying to break ground for others. Like I said, she wanted to open the way for women. And she said, these are her words, my ambition is to have this wonderful gift produce practical results for the future of commercial flying and for the women who may want to fly tomorrow's planes. During the course of her career, her flying career, she actually set many records and achieved many firsts. Let me read them to you. In 1928, she became the first woman to cross the Atlantic Ocean in an aircraft as a passenger. In 1929, she was the first president of the 99s, an association of female pilots. In 1930, she won women's speed record of 181.8 miles per hour on a 3-kilometer course. In 1931, she was the first person to set an altitude record in an autogyro early helicopter, at 18,451 feet. In 1932, she was the first female pilot to fly solo over the Atlantic Ocean. And in 1935, she was the first person to fly solo and non-stop between Oakland, California, and Honolulu, Hawaii. I had to read all of this so that you will see that her perseverance and her ability to take risks brought her so many rewards, right? So you just never know the many rewards that lie ahead of you if you do not take any risk, if you are too afraid to take up challenges just because you don't want to fail. But then, this is not all when it comes to the story of Millie. One more big risk. By 1935, she was a seasoned world-class pilot and had done a lot to accomplish her goals of opening doors for women and legitimizing commercial aviation. And so she believed that she wanted to set new records. This time around, she wanted to set a new record for the longest flight at 29,000 miles, something that only a man had done at this time. And the first time she attempted to set out to accomplishing this big feat, this was in March 1935. She flew the first leg from Oakland to Hawaii, but as she took off from Lukefield near Pearl Harbor, she blew a tire and crashed the plane. But then, this did not make her give up. The plane was shipped to California for repairs, and she planned her next attempt. 2 years later, she decided to attempt this great feat again. This was now in June 1937. And she actually started. She was having it going on smoothly together with her instructor, and at a point they had already covered like 22,000 miles. Don't forget that she set out to do 29,000 miles. By the time they had covered 22,000 miles, they had just 7,000 miles to go. They were so happy that, they were almost there. They were going to achieve this great feat. But as soon as they took off to complete the remaining 7,000 miles, they were nowhere to be found. They were never seen again. And that was the end of Millie and her navigator, Frederick Noonan. The U.S. Navy ships searched diligently for them and for the plane, but there was no trace of them, no trace of the plane found. Maybe it is safe to say till date. They were never seen. That was the end of her career. That was the end of everything. But was it worth the risk? She took a very big risk, and this led to her end. But was it worth the risk? If anybody had been able to talk to Earhart, Millie, during her last hours, John C. Maxwell believed that she would not have experienced any regret for attempting what she did. She once said, "Now and then, women should do for themselves what men have already done, occasionally what men have not done, thereby establishing themselves as persons and perhaps encouraging other women towards greater independence of thought and action." In other words, she really wanted to set the pace for women to dare great things, to do those things that they believe that only men should be doing, right? And she felt successful at it. I'm sure that she was very fulfilled, just as the author also thought that she was fulfilled. Because to achieve any goal, you must take risks. Amelia Earhart believed that, and her advice when it came to risk was simple and direct. She said, decide whether or not the goal is worth the risks involved. If it is, then stop worrying. Just go for it. If the goal is worth it, go for it. Stop worrying about it. Don't think too hard about it. The reality is that everything in life is risky. If you want to avoid all risks, then don't do any of the following. Number one, don't ride in an automobile because they cause 20% of all fatal accidents. Number two, don't travel by air if you want to avoid risks. Don't travel by air, by rail, or by water because 16% of all accidents results from these activities. Then number three, don't walk in the streets because 50% of all accidents occurred in the streets. Number four, don't stay at home. 70% of all accidents happen at home, right? What this is saying in essence is that if you don't want to take any risk, then it is as good as leaving this world, right? Because as long as we are here on earth, even the risks that you do not plan for, the failures that you don't plan for, they may come. And some people think that, it is only in some locations or some countries that some bad things can happen to you. I have a friend who went to Scotland, and as he was standing by the road, a car, went towards him, hit him, and broke his leg. He couldn't go to work for months. He had a broken leg, right? If that had happened in Nigeria, many of us would have said, this Nigeria is safe. A lot of things are happening, things that could be avoided. But it can happen anywhere, right? Accidents, misfortune, mishap, failure can happen anywhere. So, to say that you don't want to take any risk is as good as saying, you don't want to live again because life is risky. In life, there are no safe places or risk-free activities, and that is the truth. Everything in life brings risk. The less you venture out, the greater your risk of failure. So if you venture out, you're going to encounter risk. If you don't venture out, you also risk not succeeding. Yes, So it is two ways. The choice is yours at the end of the day. Do you want to keep to yourself? Play it safe. Don't take any risk. And then you also risk not succeeding. You risk living in poverty. You risk living a miserable life. Or you go all out. Take calculated risks, not stupid risks. You know. And then you risk failure, but at the end of the day, you have a higher chance of succeeding. You have a higher chance of that which you're doing to become great. There are two kinds of people when it comes to taking risks. Number one, there are those who don't dare try new things. They don't. They just remain in their comfort zones. And number two, there are those who don't dare miss them. They don't dare miss new things. Now, there are different characteristics of these people. Those who don't try new things, they resist opportunities, they rationalize their responsibilities, they rehearse impossibilities, they cook up in their heads 10 reasons why something will not work. And there are some characteristics of people who don't want to dare missing opportunities. They find opportunities, they finish their responsibilities, they feed on impossibilities, they crush it. And so many, there are 15 characteristics of these people, right? But I won't be able to go through everything. Now, let's look at traps that make people back away from risks. There are so many traps that keep people away from risk, that prevents them from wanting to try new things. If risk has such great potential rewards, then why don't people embrace it as a friend? I believe they don't, because they tend to fall into one or more of the following 6 traps. Number one, the embarrassment trap. Nobody wants to feel bad. Nobody wants to feel embarrassed. You don't want to try something and then you fall flat. You're gonna feel bad, right? And some of us have greater shock absorber or lesser shock absorber than other people. For some people, the moment they are embarrassed, it can take them weeks or even months to overcome that feeling. If you take a risk and fall flat on your face, you might embarrass yourself. But so what? We all take risks, we all fail, we all fall at one point or the other. The sooner you realize that this is part of life, there is no way you go through life without getting embarrassed. And embarrassment can come in different forms. Imagine that you go out. There was a day I hurriedly, got into my car. I wanted to go to the car wash. And it was after I dropped off my car at the car wash in my estate that I realized that I was wearing my clothes inside out. And the funny thing was that it was supposed to be like a quiet day when people had gone to work. But I met people at the car wash and they saw me. It was when I was going back to my apartment that I saw that, oh, look at me. This is what I wore. So I felt a little bit embarrassed. It can be as little as that. Or maybe as a content creator, you keep posting content and nobody's liking. And your friends and family members are seeing it that, this guy is not getting any views. He's just doing this content. Nobody's liking, nobody's commenting, nobody's sharing, It can be an embarrassing situation coming from the point of view of a content creator. It can be embarrassing. That's why people will go around, oh, please follow me, please follow me back, follow me back. They are trying to avoid that embarrassment, that they're just dishing out content. People are not engaging. Or maybe you are selling something. You have advertised something fantastic online. You have done your copywriting, you have looked for the right words to pitch what you're selling, and you're doing it openly. Your account is public. Everybody can see you, both strangers and people that you know. And then, no single comments to say, oh, I am interested. It can be so embarrassing. Or you venture into a business and you lose your money. So many embarrassing situations. But then, so what? I know it is easier said than done to say, so what? But that is the truth. You have to be tough on the inside. If an embarrassment occurs, raise your head, put your shoulders high, and keep going and keep moving. Those people who are not coming out to do anything, they are the bigger losers. That's the truth. That's the way I see it. If you judge me, you criticize me because I try something, and I lose at it or I fail at it, and you laugh at me, I'm not a loser. It is better you try something and fail. I am better than those who fold their hands, those who are afraid of being criticized, those who don't want to do anything. I am better off than them. So if you are trying something and you are not succeeding, it is only for now. It doesn't mean that for life you are not going to succeed. So don't let the trap of embarrassment hold you back from taking that risk. Something that you believe is worthwhile, right? Go for it. Little progress is better than no progress at all. Success comes in taking many small steps. If you stumble in a small step, it really matters. Don't gift wrap the garbage. Let little failures go. Number 2 trap, the rationalization trap. People who are caught in the rationalization trap second guess everything they do. Is it really important? Is this, is this worth it? And that is how they will rationalize it. They will think and overthink it until the opportunity will pass them by, until they will come to settle in their minds that it is not important after all. And that is how they miss it. 20 years down the line, they are secretly wishing that they had started when they see those who started after them doing great things, right? The truth is that if you wait long enough, nothing is going to be important, because you would have rationalized it in your head that let me leave it, Jerry, So don't rationalize anything. Emily said, or Millie, yes, she said that decide whether or not the goal is worth the risks involved. If it is, stop worrying. Just do it. Number 3 trap, the unrealistic expectation trap. For some reason, many people think everything in life should be easy, everything should be rosy, they should have it on a platter of gold. And once they find out that they are not getting the desired results, that they are not achieving what they set out to achieve, they give up. They don't realize that success takes hard work. And it doesn't even end there. The moment you succeed, the reward for success is more hard work. Be ready to do more hard work. When I started creating content on TikTok, for example, and I wasn't really getting the kind of traffic that I am getting now, it was still okay. I was still like, okay, nothing really much to worry about. I was still going on the same frequency, the same pace of what I was doing, even though my content had always been good to the best of my ability. If I'm to rate myself from the very beginning, I've always put my thoughts into it. I don't do anything shabby, at least to the best of my knowledge and ability. But then when people were not really noticing me, I wasn't getting much traffic and engagement, I wasn't under any pressure. But the moment one of my videos went viral and I was gaining visibility and people were discovering me, what happened? There was now this demand that you must keep up this pace, so that the people that found you because they found your content to be great and that you are worth following, you cannot now afford to be dishing out content that are thoughtless, that are shabby. So the reward for success is more hard work. If you don't want to work hard, then don't pray for success, right? If you do a business today and it succeeds, what happened? You are now, there is a greater responsibility on you to either maintain that pace that brought you success or to increase it. But in most cases, you have to increase it because the level of hard work that gave you the success in the first place will not be enough to take you to the next level of success. So you have to up your game. That is the way life is. So at no point are you going to rest on your horse to say, oh, I have now arrived. No. You won't see any rich man say that I have now arrived. Go and look at the rich men that you know. Is it Elon Musk? Is it Dangote? Is it Otedola? Is it Bill Gates? They still keep on working. They still keep on working. They are not sleeping and just going on vacation all around the world. They still have to keep working. If you're in Nigeria, you probably know the stress that Dangote went through recently about his refinery. I'm sure he must have had so many sleepless nights in order to get things going in his favor. So don't have any unrealistic expectation about success. No, don't be unrealistic. It takes hard work. The number 4 trap is the fairness trap. People expect that life will be fair to them. So if life is not fair to them, they just relax and then they wallow in misery, in thinking and figuring out, oh, why me, why not me, why did this, instead of them to summon all their courage and keep forging ahead. When psychologist Scott Peck begins his book The Road Less Traveled with the words life is difficult, what he is getting at is that life isn't fair. Many people never learn that fact. Instead of acknowledging it and moving on, they expend their energy trying to find fairness. Life is not fair to anybody. If life was fair to me, I don't think that I should be, let me not say it. Let me not say that, who doesn't want to be born in some of the best countries of the world, want to be, my tummy. Who doesn't want to be called the child of the richest man or the richest woman in the world and things like that? Life is not fair to anybody. The rich also cry. The number 5 trap is the trap of timing. People are always looking for the best timing. If you don't set out, you may never set out, because there is no perfect time anywhere, no perfect timing. You have to just take this time and make it perfect, right? The number 6 trap is the trap of inspiration. Many people want the inspiration to come. They want to be motivated. They want to start perfectly. They want everything to be set. They want that great idea. No. Once you conceive that idea, in fact, there is an advice here that when you get an insight or inspiration, do something about it in 24 hours, or the odds are against you that you are never going to act on it. So you don't have to be great to start, but you have to start to be great. It is only when you start that greatness will find you. You don't wait to be great, to have everything figured out before you start, before you launch out. Are you taking enough risks? As you examine the way you live, consider whether you are taking enough risks. Not senseless risks, but intelligent ones. Even if you don't fall into one of the 6 categories the 6 traps that we just looked at, you still may be playing it too safe. How can you tell? You can tell by looking at your mistakes. If recently, or in the last 1 year or 2 years, or let's even say throughout this year, you have never failed at anything, you have never made any mistake, you have not been embarrassed by any situation, it means that you are not trying out new things. You are in your comfort zone. You are just in your comfort zone. That is what it means, right? You are not daring, challenging things. And even if you are trying new things, maybe you are just trying things that are easy, things that are not challenging, that are not tasking, all right? And you need to change that. Now, let's look at one more story, and then we'll call it a wrap for chapter 11. And this story talks about another kind of risk taking. Maybe the story of Amelia Earhart did not inspire you enough. You thought that, oh, maybe you cannot relate. At least you should be able to relate to the story of a man called Joseph Lister. He was a second generation physician born in England in 1827, right? And back in the days, hey, when I was reading this, I thought I was having goose pimples, right? Back in those days, if you had to do surgery, you injure yourself, you had to be wheeled to the theater. You should be ready for pain, serious pain, because there was nothing like anesthesia. They said that they are going to strap you to a table, like a kitchen table. They will strap you to a table, they will bind you tightly so that you don't move, so that you are not able to even raise your head, that you want to run away. You will feel every pain. You know how a cut can be. They will cut you. Everything, nothing, no pain reliever. No pain reliever, nothing like that. You will feel the pain firsthand. It was a grisly affair. If you had the misfortune of being injured or requiring surgery in the mid-1800s, right? I've just described what will happen to you. And under that table, there will be a tub of sand that will be catching your blood. Every blood that is coming from your body will be going into that tub of sand, And what they did in those days is that the theater where the operation will be performed is a different building from the main hospital, because anybody going through that kind of surgery will be screaming, so that the other patients that are not going through surgery will not feel so upset. So they separated the building for the theater for surgery. It was different from the main hospital. It was, oh my god, hey, it is better not even described in detail, right? And they will use all kinds of nice sharp objects on you. In fact, if the physician wanted to use his hand, he could put the knife in his mouth, everything was just gory, and people would die. People were dying. The chances of surviving was just a little better than 50%. If you now have to be operated in a military hospital, yes, in a military hospital, your chances of survival is just about 10%. People were dying a lot from surgery. And this man, Dr. Joseph Lister, was thinking about it, that why is it that people are dying? What can we do to make sure that death rate is decreased, during surgery? And then he started thinking. His first major breakthrough came after he was given some writings by his friend Thomas Anderson, a chemistry professor. The papers were written by scientist Louis Pasteur, and they stated that that it was germs and bacteria that were causing people to die. That were causing people to die, and the germs and bacteria were present in air within the operating room. Because anytime they wanted to perform surgery, not like now that doctors and physicians and surgeons would go and change into their theater robe, people would enter the theater with the same clothes and shoes that they've used to move around town. So you can imagine the rate of germs and bacteria that was going into the theater with them, the operation room, right? So that was how bad things were. So this scientist and the chemist were able to conclude that the bacteria, they named it gangrene, was caused not by hair. Gangrene was caused not by hair, but bacteria and germs present in air. And Dr. Lister thought that those ideas were remarkable. And then he started coming up with different theories to eliminate these dangerous microbes. He started doing experiments. How could he make his patients to have a higher rate of survival? And as he was doing his experiments, he became an outcast. His colleagues ridiculed him, they criticized him, they mocked him, they laughed at him. He faced rejection, but he didn't give up. Even though he could not continue to run his experiments in the hospital, he started doing it at home, in his kitchen, together with his wife. And one day, he came across he discovered a substance that was capable of killing the microbes, the germs and bacteria. And he finally settled on carbolic acid, a substance that was used to clean sewage system, right? And he thought that he was going to use it, So this led him to taking a greater risk, because for him to be sure that this carbolic acid would work, he had to test it on a patient. What if it didn't work? What if it killed the patient? That was even a greater risk. So what he did was that he determined that he was going to wait until he found the right patient to test this new substance on. And it would require somebody who was almost at the verge of death. So finally, he found a patient on August 12, 1865, and his patient was an 11-year-old boy who had been run over by a cart, C-A-R-T, and was brought to the hospital. Ordinarily, performing an operation on this boy would have been a death sentence if it was the former way that they were doing surgery, because his leg had been so badly damaged that the broken bones had come out through his skin, and his injury was more than 8 hours old. So he was the kind of patient who usually did not survive. So Dr. Lister thought that, this is the perfect patient to use. After all, from history, this kind of operation, would result in death. But then he used this carbolic acid to clean the wounds, all the instruments for operation, and anything that came in contact with this patient. He dressed the wound of this boy with bandages soaked in carbolic acid, and then he waited. 1 day passed, 2 days passed, 3 days passed, then 4 days passed. To his joy, after 4 days, there were no signs of fever or blood poisoning in this boy. And after 6 weeks, this boy could walk again. One would have thought that his colleagues would applaud him, that he would gain recognition, but no, they criticized him even more. But he did not get deterred or discouraged. He kept on using this carbolic acid to clean all wounds, to treat his patients, and to clean all the instruments of operation, all the tools, the environment of the operation, and everything. And he treated 11 patients with compound fractures, and none of his patients contracted infections, because before then it was infections that were actually killing the patients, not even the procedure of the operation itself. After doing the operation, the wounds or whatever, the site of the operation would get infected and they would die. So he treated 11 patients and none of them got infections. He continued with this procedure, improving on this substance and everything, his methods, as he went on. But his colleagues still continued to criticize them until he got the results of his risk. It was in 1867 he published his findings, and it was not until 1881, 16 years after his first success, that he was internationally recognized and he was given several awards and recognition. You see, he took a big risk. But did it pay off in the end? It did. You may be taking a risk now and thinking that, oh, it is not worth it. Nobody's recognizing me. You're not doing it for anybody's recognition. Do it for your own sake first. And do it for the sake of other people that you think may benefit. The author says that if you've had any kind of surgery, as he has had, you owe Dr. Joseph Lister a debt of gratitude. His risk secured our safety. And that is the truth. Whether you're a woman or a man, you're a woman, you've done CS before, or any kind of operation, you're a man, you've done any kind of operation. Maybe you would have died if this guy did not risk his life, if he did not risk his profession. Imagine that it tested his substance on somebody and the person died. His colleagues who were already criticizing him and ridiculing him, they would have said, but we told you, you're always doing I too know, I too know, I too know. All right? Lister's risks may not look as flashy as those taken by someone like Amelia Earhart, but that doesn't matter. What he did brought great personal achievement to him and lasting benefits to others. He wasn't content with success as a doctor. He attempted something more difficult and riskier, and that is what matters. You risk because you have something of value that you want to achieve. That is just another part of failing forward. So don't be in your comfort zone. Take a risk. Maybe you strongly believe that you should leave your job. That your job is not getting you anywhere. But you're so afraid that if you leave, how are you going to feed your family? But if you don't take that risk, you lose even greater opportunities. Maybe God is even trying to make you see reasons why you should leave, but you're holding tightly onto it. You don't want to let it go. It's not paying your bills. It's not even feeding you well. Before the end of the month, you're already borrowing. You're already, you feel unsatisfied. You feel unfulfilled. You are grumbling as you're working. But you don't want to leave it. You're not happy. Even you know that God does not want you on that job. But you're too afraid to drop your resignation letter and go in search of something better, or sit down at home for 1 month and go and pray. Go and set your mind, and see something better that you can do. Maybe to start a business, or to look for a better job, or anything at all. Or to start a ministry, whatever God is asking you to do, in your heart of hearts. Well, and it doesn't apply to just jobs alone. Anything. You don't want to take a step. You don't want to start that thing. You don't want to make a move. You just feel too relaxed where you are. You are playing it too safe. It is also a risk that you are taking by playing it too safe. You risk not fulfilling your dreams in life. You risk living an ordinary life. All right. And these are the parting words before we go. If at first you do succeed, try something harder. If you are trying new things and they're becoming too easy, like a piece of cake, or like my former students would say, easy peasy lemon squeezy. If you give them any work to do and they get it right, 5/5, 10/10 is easy peasy lemon squeezy, you know. If what you are doing is all easy peasy lemon squeezy, you're just getting everything right, it means you are not challenging yourself. So challenge yourself to do something greater, to do something more difficult. The willingness to take greater risks is a major key to achieving success, and you may be surprised that it can solve two different kinds of problems, right? It is either you are hitting your goals. If you are hitting your goals, you need to take greater chances, because the road to the next level is always uphill. You can't coast there. Conversely, if you find yourself in a place where it seems that you don't achieve many of your goals, you may be playing it too safe. It's too safe. So think about the next big step ahead. Challenge yourself. Get out of your comfort zone. Don't be afraid to take risks, because in them you will find greater opportunities and success. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for tuning in. We've come to the end of chapter 11. Please don't forget to like this video. Share your comments in the comment section below. Please subscribe to this channel in case you're yet to subscribe. I remain Olaide Agbaje, also known as First Lady. And on this channel, I inspire you to live intentionally. We're not going to do any review tomorrow. Tomorrow is Sunday. But on Monday, we're going to come back by God's grace. And we're going to review chapter 12 of Failing Forward, which is titled, Make Failure Your Best Friend. It is going to be another exciting review. Until then, be intentional. Bye.